kidnapped him from the north in 1841 into the chains of slavery, the deal already done. His freedom stolen from him like someone picked his pocket, all his possessions taken, including his children's pictures in a locket. His identity ripped away, a new name thrust upon him, his history erased in a morning that would dawn grim. The psychological pain that would surpass the pain of the slaver's whip, a thirst for the life he had but would never taste another sip. Witness to atrocities he'd never imagined could ever happen, the degradation of people while the slaver stood there laughing, a nightmare he couldn't awake from while the mind screamed for its escape, watching women helplessly taken into the night for one more rape. The skin on his back covered in scars, like the scars carved into his mind, lost in an apocalypse of all the horrors so unkind, in a place where insanity ruled and torture was mere amusement, for people so distorted they didn't understand what the meaning of abuse meant. Every day dawning, just like the one before it, a life lost its meaning until finally he would abhor it. He was forced to apply the whip to a back already torn, to watch a mother's children sold, their lives one more that she was left to mourn. The rope around the necks of two black men hanging from a tree, a testimony to the price he'd pay for trying to be free. The days of work that continued long into the evening, the pain inside his chest for the family he was grieving, pretending to be uneducated because his intelligence was a crime, looking for an open door while the years counted down his time, having to be forever on guard lest he betray his truth, counting the years of his children's life as they moved beyond their youth, holding on to the will to live that he might one day live again, carving a piece of wood into the shape of a writing pen, his soul placed in a letter that he could never send, substituting berry juice for the ink that it could lend, looking for someone to trust in the land of prejudice and hate, slowly biding his time as his letter laid in wait, mistakenly placing trust in someone he never should have trusted, having to burn his letter before eventually he was busted, but still he held a drop of hope, unwilling to let it go. The memories of his families and all they did not know, their lives growing older while his languished in this hell. He would find a way to rise from this place in which he fell. They would give him the strength to rise to one more hellish day. There would come a day of reckoning where he would make them pay. These were the thoughts that helped him through the pain of his existence, that allowed him to feign collaboration with a heart filled with resistance, abiding his time and watching for the door of slavery to open, trying to maintain his humanity in a place where inhumanity was coping, looking for the face of decency among the animals that held him, trying to get back up no matter how many times they felled him, until a northern man had been hired by the slavers to build a structure, and he had no idea as he helped him that this would be the juncture. He listened as this man criticized the slaver's right to own another man, and somewhere in his words he felt hope in his ability to understand, and so he took the risk to ask him to write a letter to the north, saying to him it was the only way he knew to bring his freedom forth, and then just waiting and hoping for his nightmare to finally end, hoping and praying that someone would get the message that he'd send, until the day that freedom rode down the path to his enslavement, when the people of his past came to rescue him from depravement, and as he walked toward them a voice of pain called out, from those he'd come to know what their pain was all about, but they could not make the trip to freedom that his birth had guaranteed him. He could no longer be in a state of ignorance that once had quarantined him, and he would never rest again in the bliss of comfort and unknowing. He would always have the memories of the hate the self was sowing. The faces of despair would be burned forever as photographic images in his brain. The scars left on his back less visible than the scars of his emotional pain, left forever changed by the trip to hell he was forced to make, realizing that taking his freedom for granted had obviously been a mistake. No longer blissfully unaware of the chains of slavery his sisters and brothers wore, he dedicated his life to secure their freedom and to even up the score. A leader in the abolitionist movement, he would help them smuggle people into the North. He would fight for the rest of his life in order to bring their freedom forth. His trial by fire had forever changed his life's direction. He would never again be blinded by injustice's selection. He had been sensitized to the freedom that he had taken once for granted. It had changed in the South when he saw how justice could be slanted, that people's lives could be thrown away as if they never mattered, that people could beat another person until their blood was splattered, that they could sell off someone's children like they were nothing more than livestock, that they could have a woman brutally beaten just because of the slaver's wife's talk, because her husband was raping her and so she felt betrayed, and so she wanted her beaten until the scars would never fade. The insanity of people who somehow believed they had the right to rob others of their humanity with their ignorance and their might.